This is iRacing.
Open wheels are right at home at Interlagos, but these little cars will probably be a bit outsized by this modern F1 track. Should make for some fun slipstream battles as we get ready for round 6 of the Skip Barber Sim Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is former racer Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Christian Duploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Joey, the nice thing for the drivers is atypically for Interlagos, there's no rain slated for today.
No rain, and thankfully a hugely wide racetrack for these relatively small Formula cars. But remember, we've got the little engine in the back. I have a feeling the slipstream, maybe even bump drafting going up the hill here today.
It's going to be powerful, that's without a doubt. By the way, for our viewers not familiar with one of Brazil's most important circuits, let's head to our track guide.
Welcome to Autodromos Jose Carlos Pache. Most fans and drivers simply know this place as Interlagos. Starting life as an absolute behemoth of a circuit, this Brazilian track was eventually truncated to the version you see today. Having hosted Formula One for roughly 3 decades, it's become very well known on the international stage. But it has also held rounds in the World Endurance Championship, as well as frequently seen Brazilian stock cars, motorcycles, and even truck racing. There's little difference between its two layouts, which includes the GP course and the Moto course, which simply adds a chicane to the end of the lap. In both cases, it's a tale of two circuits. The run past the start-finish line and into the Senna S, followed by the blast towards the Descida do Lago, are very high-speed sections that come back-to-back. Drivers will need to focus on top end in order to attack or defend. Expect most passes to happen in those two corners. But from Ferradura until Juchao, the track suddenly twists itself into a mess of hairpins and frustratingly technical turns. This can make car setup a real compromise, and for the latter part of the lap, an absolute pain when dealing with traffic. Pit exit is also a narrow affair, so it requires drivers to take care when trying to maximize their outlaps. On the upside, with this being a modern F1 track, there's paved runoff in abundance at many of the fast corners. The passion of the Brazilian fans always comes out in force at races, and it's no wonder with this picturesque track sandwiched right amongst the neighborhoods of Sao Paulo.
We're so used to talking about this track of having two halves, Joey, and it still will have that, but it's going to be a completely different nature from what we're used to.
Absolutely. 15 turns and just over 2.5 miles. It was what makes up Interlagos here. And the start-finish straightaway is uphill towards turn number 1. That usually provides some exciting outbraking opportunities, and then you go down through the Senna S. I mentioned how wide this racetrack is. I have a feeling that this field is going to put that to test, especially on the opening lap through sector number 1. Turn number 4, always a good passing opportunity if you can get the run down that straightaway over there, and then call sector number 2 filled with elevation changes, lots of switchback corners. But remember, these cars are momentum-based cars. We're going to see lots of over-under attempts, lots of dives down to apex, and then turn number 12 you see over there, make sure you get the corner exit, and then hope you got some bump draft help up the hill.
Be careful with that bump draft, though. These cars are not really made for that, of course. And after taking a nice little look at the track, we are in qualifying. But first, I do believe we have the race details. Double checking on that. Yes, we do. So let's take a look at what will be involved in today's race. We got 13 laps for this one, so a little bit longer than what we saw at the last F1 track that we ran it over at Suzuka. Open setups in these cars, even though they are very basic. Not really much you can do to find speed, more just comfort in that machine. There's a spare car waiting for you in pit lane if you need it, but it's such a short race, it really won't be of much use to get a good result. They have a standing start, unlike the real Skip Barbers did back when these cars ran, and they do have a disqualification at 17 incidents in this series. So you got to watch out with some of the paved runoff that they do have here. You got to keep it within the white lines and make sure that you don't abuse those track limits too much. So we're going to take a bit before we get some times on the board, since it does take a while. and watching the max speed here coming up that hill towards the start-finish line. Let's see how fast these things actually can get going.
Yeah, I'm a little bit curious of that as well. Following here with the number 1 car of Bertie, looks like about 115, 116 miles an hour before Tim jumps on the brakes there for turn number 1. This is some of that elevation change that we find rather abundant through Interlagos. It pretty much kicks off down the Senna S's and then flattens out here through this short shoot straightaway. And I have a feeling, Joe, that every straightaway here is going to feel very long.
Absolutely. Here's the run down Retta Aposta into the Ciudad Lago. This will definitely be one of those places where you could see some passes happening either because of the slipstream or even into the braking of this little downhill left-hander. It tends to be a little bit tricky trying to keep it within the boundaries on that one. And then they climb back uphill once again here into the horseshoe. It's going to be a long right-hander. These cars do not like to be off throttle around corners. That'll make balancing it a little bit difficult.
Yeah, it's kind of a finicky little car and how you actually drive these things. And like you said, you want to be on throttle for the most part. It doesn't like to roll that much. Typically, it kind of gets loose on you if you really allow it to roll and carry that entry speed. So I think we'll see drivers slow the cars down in that threshold brake zone and then get back to throttle as soon as they possibly can. And when I think about momentum-based cars, spec-based racing, that's typically the name of the game. The sooner you're on the throttle, the better off you are.
Especially right here, coming off of the junction and up the hill. So we saw about 115 up here on your own. And as you can see, you're going to get a nice little pull. Anybody who is probably within about 1 second ahead of you. And you got to shortcut as much as possible here across the old pit entry before they updated it some years ago here at Interlagos. And Tim Bertie's first lap going to be a 152.2. Good enough for provisional pole right now, but we're still waiting for about half the field across the line.
Yeah, 52.25. The next up is Ricardo Martinez at a 52.46. And then we have the rest of the field slotting in. I see what looks to be, my goodness, all the way back to 12th place is the first car that is 1 second back as we look at Xavier Sanchez right here. Always a familiar face on the Global SimRacing Channel in a variety of different racing series.
Yeah, I do love how many he's willing to hop into the car for. His first lap, a 53.1. So that should be, just within that 1 second mark that you mentioned. We're now up to about 13th place within a single second out here. So this bodes well that we should have a pretty close race. We're still waiting for Vlado Tito, Anthony Jones, and Tobias Runer to set a lap time.
And I think just predicting how this is going to race out once we put all 20 of these cars on the starting grid, I feel that if you're within, call it a half a second of the ultimate lap time, these cars will train together enough, as long as you keep it clean, right? If you start battling and banging wheels with each other, all of a sudden the slipstream is going to break away from you. However, if you can be part of that main lead pack, that main draft pack, as long as you're within, call it a half a second, I feel like you should get pulled along.
I agree. Yeah, it'll be hard to separate as Martinez, getting ready to cross the line, sits in third currently at a 52.4. Is this going to be an improvement as he crosses the timing line now? 52 flat. Yes, it will be. That'll put him up to pole.
Nice lap there. So the number 1 car still on top, 52.01. Martinez, 52.02. Randall, 52.09. That is 3 cars all separated by less than a tenth of a second up front.
Looks like Bertie did take that fastest lap back. Sanchez still has his second one, and Tito on his first lap did set a good time initially, I thought. Now I lost where he was. No, excuse me, not showing a time yet. No, he had must have had an off track somewhere out there. Sanchez now comes across for his second, and that jumps him up massively. He was all the way in 15th. He'll start 8th now.
So this is crucial here for this number 2 car, because like you said, the first lap, it did not count. It did not register, which usually means you had an incident point. You drove it off the racetrack somewhere. So Tito is looking to try to capitalize on this second lap here. He is accelerating out of the final corner and up towards that start-finish line. Looks like we have Tobias Rohner as well out there on the racetrack. These are the only two cars that are still running, and granted that there's a minute left in qualifying, definitely looks like Tito will be able to at least slot this one in. We'll see what the lap time is actually going to be, a 151.9. He goes straight to the top pole position for the number 2 car.
0.07 of a second between them. That was oh so important for him. I do like this paint scheme on Rohner. Kind of 70s feeling, this one. And the 15 sits last on the field. Let's see if this second lap, well, it's not going to be an improvement as he comes to a halt, braking before he even gets to the timing line. So he's going to be the last of our 18 cars to grid up today. But it is 1.4 seconds between those 18 cars. It is going to be a close race.
It's incredibly stacked in terms of those qualifying times. I can't wait to see what this standing start's going to do.
Gives us a chance to head through our starting grid as well for today's race. And up at the top, as we said, Tito on the pole ahead of Birdie by a small margin. Martinez will be in third as Jeff Randall starts from fourth. Anthony Jones P5. From there, outside of row 3 goes to Guardia. Philip Burke will start 7th, and Remco Pleijer will be in 8th. Xavier Sanchez 9th, and Brandon Krasta in 10th.
In 11th, we have Peter Suaponki. Then Benji Raig will start in 12th. 13th is going to be Javier Soto. In 14th, we've got Pablo Joglar. And then in 15th, Jesus Cabal. Titus De Jong in 16th with Chris Wine in 17th. And Tobias Rohner starting out the 18 cars.
Standing start, but the run down into turn 1 here could be decisive as we often will see trouble into that first corner, Joey. Now it's going to be at slightly slower speed, so hopefully it won't be as treacherous, but I could still see problems happening.
Absolutely, and I feel like just with the acceleration phase, it is a relatively short run into turn number 1. However, these cars, they're not that fast accelerating. I do think that the brake zone could be a lunge opportunity very early in today's race.
Just make sure you don't lunge into the side of your competitor. Or maybe you want to try and go around the outside if everybody gets plugged up there on that inside line, as it does switch back immediately, of course, into the second part of the Senna S. A few of the drivers giving us a long wait, and it looks like now they have finally all gridded up. So the engines start to rev, and the lights come up as we get ready for round 6, and there is the green flag. Vlado Tito is off the line well immediately. We see cars almost crisscrossing past each other here at the start-finish line. And Birdie has got a good pull on Tito coming down into the first corner, is able to get down to the inside and take the lead away.
What a move right there from Birdie as we start to go down through sector number 1. Let's see if Tito, though, can pull that slipstream. He got taken advantage on that initial start going down into turn number 1, but here we go. He's already sitting underneath the rear wing of that number 1 car. I think he's just patiently waiting right now. You see Ricardo Martinez in that white and blue car in third place as we enter turn number 4, single file.
It's not enough of a draw. He stays behind, at least for the time being. You could see lots of side-by-side battling down towards the back of that pack, but mostly single file at the front of the group. And now they get to the infield section. This is where it's a little bit more twisty and technical. They're going to have to sort out all this battling at the back.
I think it is going to be really tough racing. Call it from 8th place all the way back to 18th. Look at them scrambling, trying to find whatever clean piece of racetrack they can find. Really, the top 5, top 7, relatively orderly. Look at this, single file, just right smack on the racing line. Almost contact, actually, between our top 2, but I think that was Vlado just getting really close to that gearbox of the number 1.
A bit of side-by-side between De Jong and Rohner. Looks like Rohner's going to get that P16 off of Titus. So coming up into the junction, now everybody tries to slam on that throttle as soon as they can and climb up the hill. Now it's looking very, very single file. This is where I think we're expecting to see most of the back and forth with the drafting.
However, the draft, it's going to pull you up alongside somebody, but the shortest distance is driver's left. How much can you defend driver's left? versus take advantage of the draft on drivers right. Look at that third car line. Is that the sweet spot? I wonder if that's actually where you want to be. So Tito takes away the lead once again. The pole sitter back out front in clean air, but I was very surprised with the run coming from third place. Here he comes up the inside.
He's got another go at it, and he might have room. No, he has the door shut on him very late, as Vlado did not want to leave that open, but his focus on Martinez has allowed Birdie to just slide up around the outside. He could try and take it back once again, takes the long way into turn 4, and I think he's got it done.
Birdie did a tremendous job right there to carry the momentum around the outside of turn number 4, was on the gas before his competitor. Now he accelerates away up the hill. The top 4 single file, and then you see 5th, 6th, and 7th starting to kind of poke their nose out, try to get a little bit of clean air, see if they can sneak up the inside, and you see the accordion effect. Everybody stretches out under acceleration and then compresses just like an accordion under braking.
And it looks very much like you had described earlier of nobody being able to get away from one another here. Look at how close they all are as Sanchez and Burke duel over 7th place. Sanchez will have it momentarily, but Burke gets it right back as it switches into Mergulo. Downhill plunge through this corner up to the break-in of the junction.
Nice job there from Xavier Sanchez, and now he's going to try to use that slipstream and try to pull up to that car directly in front of him as well. Maybe use a little bit of the bump draft with Philip Burke. I mean, he's literally on the gearbox right now. He's actually going to get to the inside of Philip Burke. So these are the 2 yellow cars smack right in the middle of the field. Xavier Sanchez is going to be on driver's left, which is on the inside of the racetrack, as it's side by side now for the lead. Vlado on the outside, Tim Berti thinking about the inside run.
Coming down into the braking around the outside for the second time. Vlado is able to make that work. Martinez still watching. That time he had an even better run, and look behind them. A little bit of battle between Randall and Jones for 4th place. Is once again aggressive defense, almost sending Tim into the wall there.
So that's 2 laps in a row that the drivers have exited turn number 3 and then immediately moved over driver's left to cover off that inside line. I wonder if that's going to kind of be the move, is that we're going to be circling turn number 4 and who can get to the inside line, because if you can get through turn number 4, it seems like you can lead this sector 2 and sector 3.
That's a good point. But then will you be ahead by the start-finish line, of course, which is a long ways down after the junction, climbing up the hill past the water tower and Subidos dos Boxes. Martinez giving us the view of that battle for the lead. Has been waiting back in 3rd, but I do think you're right that he is one to keep an eye on.
The feistiest part of this group is probably 5th, 6th, and 7th place right now. They are doing over-unders. They are trying to search for clean air on the outside of the racetrack to try to really square up off of these corners, but this is that tricky turn number 12. You got to be able to get to the throttle sooner than all of your competitors, and it was actually our overall leader that kept it really nice and tidy. The yellow number 1 car slipped a little bit wide, but this front straightaway is so long, it might actually be an advantage with a longer slingshot maneuver.
You're right. And yeah, it looks like Birdie is ahead by the start-finish line here, just barely. 4th place has got to run along with our 3rd place driver, not quite 4 wide, as it looks like Randall is going to throw his hat in with Birdie round the outside, and Birdie will come out the leader of this quartet. My goodness, if this is only, what, lap 4? What are we in for at lap 13?
I love all the respectful racing going on. Let's see who covers off the inside. Not as aggressive this time, but that is Ricardo Martinez, that white and blue number 13. He's actually getting taken advantage of because he's not in the slipstream. How deep can he take it on the brakes? It's going to be Jeff Randall in that green and yellow car on driver's right, snagging away 3rd position.
Finally, he slots fully in front of Martinez. Things getting a little bit backed up behind him. Look at that. Some of that pump drafting you were talking about coming down into the horseshoe. That is Jones. Looks like Guardia and Sanchez in that little group.
Well, it's almost like our top 2, top 3 are driving very courteously, right? And they're leaving room. However, once you slip it back to this 5th place, 6th place, 7th place, 8th place. All of a sudden, there's just nowhere to go on the racetrack. So these drivers are trying to search for whatever clean air they can get, try to dive for these apexes, square off the corners to try to get those momentum runs. It is really, really tough racing back here in the middle of the pack.
It looks like it. And we're going to get another taste of the slipstream as drivers drifting through that last corner.
That was Anthony Jones in that white and neon yellow number 5 car. Definitely hung out the tail through turn number 12. Even saw a little bit of tire smoke from the thing.
Okay, interesting. Birdie looks like he has given up the lead almost intentionally and is drawing back up and now is actually bumping our leader as we watch with Guardia here a little bit farther back in the pack, 3 wide for that group down to the inside, and Raul will come out ahead of Jones and Burke, but they've also now got Krasta at the back.
And I'm just going to point something out here as these kind of 4 continue to battle. They're going to be slowly separating themselves if they don't work together, but look at this number 7 car. He's the yellow car. 5th place in line. That is Xavier Sanchez. He is already up +4 for the day, our biggest mover so far.
Does look like he's been very clever at this stage of the race. See if it'll get him at least up to the front group because, yeah, there is some separation there. Somebody having a wiggle coming off of turns 4 and 5 there, but it'll switch back once again up through the horseshoe. And, yeah, it is looking like they've got some work to do. I think it's up to 1.3 seconds to the top 5 now.
And that's tough. I wouldn't say that it's undoable because I feel like if you actually get hooked up and bump draft up that hill, you could probably gain a whole lot of time on that group in front of you because you got to remember they're going to be compressing up towards turn number 1, so maybe not as fast as possible, but what I'm really curious about now is that since we do have call it a lead 5 breakaway, is it position number 2 that you want to be in? Is the draft stronger in position number 3? Where does the run get you to the start-finish line, and what position do you need to be in coming out of turn number 12?
And how far back as well. You almost kind of need that slingshot to be timed right. They're going to go 2 by 2, though. Birdie and Tito, Randall and Martinez, side by side coming down into the first corner. Going to make that 3 wide as Randall has the best run of the 4. He's going to have the inside, but he's not completely past Tito. Under braking into the Senna S, and he's going to be on the wrong side as he has to give it up.
So that time by the stripe, it was Tito who exited turn number 12 in 2nd place, used the slipstream to driver's right, got to the start-finish line first. However, it was Jeff Randall, this green and yellow car, that had the huge head of steam. So which spot do you want to be in? Can you time the run on that last lap? Jeff Randall looks like he wants some clean air out front. New leader, number 4 car.
That time able to get by the number 2 machine. So up to P1. Sanchez now watching from 4th. Birdie in 3rd, just ahead of him. And then Martinez is the one that has fallen to the back of that group. Meanwhile, we're checking in on Hoglar here. That's Philip Burke just in front of him. Guardia actually pulling away a little bit with PJ Jones. I knew I was going to make that mistake. Anthony PM Jones.
And actually, they've crucially closed it in 0.3 of a second here in sector number 2. It was all the way up to about 1.5 seconds between themselves and that lead pack. So right now, Anthony Jones in this yellow highlighted number 5 car putting together the lap of the race, trying to get back together with Slipstream. I'm sure he's sending out all the hand signals right now virtually saying, hey, Raul, let's pair up right here. Don't try to draft by me. Let's try to catch this front pack.
And honestly, if they can keep it as those 2, I almost feel like it'd be easier than having that big pack of 5. Coordinating 2 cats is a lot easier than herding a whole group together. But in the meantime, we're going to go 3 wide once again. And again, Randall is able to take the inside, but he's not completely past. It's Birdie who is the farthest ahead as they hit the brakes once again. But Vlad Tito will take the apex first down into the left-hander. Right-hander goes to Birdie. It's going to continue side by side as they head down the Retta Aposta here. This is where it's going to get fascinating. We haven't seen them carry this battle on like this.
No, and here comes Jeff Randall back to the inside. Remember, this was the corner, the same area of the racetrack that he made the move to grab the lead that previous lap. 3 wide on the break. Certainly seems like that number 4 car's got the racing line. Look at that, 3 wide for third place. That's Xavier Sanchez Martinez. And then also Tim Birdie all stacked in there. Who is going to come out of the inside? Here comes Birdie up the inside, now up the hill.
Vlad had a little touch there from Randall. Just slight contact. It does look like there's maybe a tiny bit of damage on his front wing as a slide from Martinez shows they are starting to feel it. And there you go. The second group has now actually caught them with all that side-by-side racing. So now you have to go all the way down to 11th before you get a gap.
Yeah, spot on. I'm just looking at the best pace and just between the battling there in sector number 1. Yeah, they bled nearly 8/10, nearly 9/10 of a second there, this opening group here, this lead group. So great job from everybody else to close up that slipstream and get back together with this main draft pack. Jeff Randall, excellent sector number 2. This is the biggest lead we've seen out of anybody. Let's see about Birdie and about this slingshot, how much momentum he has.
Going to start pulling him in as we hop onto the roll bar, looking forward. He starts to creep ever closer, but the finish line does come quickly after here, so Randall will hold on.
So I point that out because that is the first time that our leader has exited turn number 12 and maintained the lead to start finish. Big wiggle there as he come down the hill from Jeff Randall, but it is possible to lead out of turn 12 and get to the line first. You just have to have that big gap.
So there's the number for us, Joey. 0.4 of a second was the gap after they exited the corner, but it also will depend on who gets the run amongst them. Meanwhile, again, very much a Noah's Ark style racing down into these braking zones. You could see Sanchez and Guardia trying to tussle for P4 behind them, Martinez and Jones as well. Somebody's going to have to sort this out or they're going to start to lose touch again.
Tell you what, Xavier Sanchez viewers over on Twitch are definitely getting their money's worth out of this race right now. He has been in the thick of the action, trying to get it up inside the top 3. You see Anthony Jones trying to get around that driver that I was just talking about here. So the yellow helmet versus the yellow car. This is heading up towards what is turn number 10 on the racetrack. An uphill hairpin right-hander and then plunge it back down through this fast sweeping turn number 11 and focus on that ever important turn 12.
All right, let's see if the UK driver can get the launch car slided a little bit on the way in. This is wild stuff.
I have to giggle there. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but just these drivers up front are chucking the cars into the corner and then just dealing with it. It's pretty fun to watch.
Definitely an exciting style of racing. He's able to get side by side here. Jones able to get the nose ahead briefly, but it'll depend on the braking. No, it looks like Sanchez actually backed out a little bit. No such luck up here at the front. Birdie is fighting Randall, but he will not have the momentum around the outside. In fact, he leaves himself vulnerable. Here comes Tito, who does not have the speed out of the second apex. He now trickles backwards. Guardia has the run, makes a little bit of contact.
Yeah, Guardia almost made right front to left rear contact, and look at Jones now. He's the one with the head of steam. He's going to try to stick on the racing line around the outside, but Guardia in that green car does a nice job slipping down to the apex, maintains third place position. So right now our top 5, Jeff Randall, Tim Berti, Raul Guardia, Vlado Tito, and Anthony Jones. But that can change at any moment as we're side by side for 4th and 5th place.
Tito's dropping the farthest down. I think we've seen this entire time. P5, and they're getting awful close coming into turn 8. Amazingly, nobody made contact. They are leaving absolutely no space between these wheels, and that, to me, is starting to spell disaster.
And I agree with you. This is the furthest back we've seen that number 2 car, Vlado Tito. Remember, he was our pole sitter, only put in that 1 lap in qualifying, was the only car that actually put in a 51.9 by himself out there on the racetrack. So now he has slipped all the way back to 5th as we get this replay of Tobias Rohner, unfortunately, getting spun around in turn number 1.
was either Suaponki or Chris Wayne. I'm not sure which that was that made contact, but Roner down in 15th after that, unfortunately. Here we go again, up to the line. Who's going to cross first? It looks like Birdie's got just enough of a nose ahead in that number one, and indeed he does, but Guardia, with a massive run down the inside, is trying to take them both in one go. I don't think he can swallow that much.
Tim's really found a nice rhythm to exiting turn number 12 in, call it, second place. I wouldn't be surprised if he even gives up the lead down here into turn number 4. Let's see about the run from Randall and Guardia, or if Tim Birdie is just going to be able to maintain the lead. Birdie actually going defensive on driver's left, so he wants to clean air. He wants to be able to hit his marks out there, and that is a problem from third place. That was Jeff Randall. I think a blown downshift got into the back. I'm sorry, somebody got into the back of him, and the number 4 car retired.
A bit of a shame. Yeah, I think it was Jones that unfortunately made some pretty solid contact, and this has opened up a bit of a gap, about 1 second. Again, we've seen them pull back from farther behind, but you know, this is a chance. Those top 3 could try to work together.
And did you see the smoke out of the back end of that number 4 car? It looked like a downshift, and all of a sudden it just really decelerated. Let's take a look at the replay here as we watch these cars go through what is turn number 10 on the racetrack, down through this plunging elevation corner. And so let's listen.
You're right.
I mean, yeah.
Good call. There it is.
And then just tons of smoke pouring out the back end. So really unfortunate for Jeff Randall, who had such a great run going.
Exonerates Jones. I thought that he had overrun the corner and just clobbered the back of him with too much speed. But yeah, very great eye there, Joey, with the smoke coming out the back. Guardia is going to lead this one across the line now. 3 laps to go. Birdie slotting in behind him. Tito a ways back still, almost a full second, coming down to the braking. He will chop across while Hoglar and Sanchez try to settle 4th position.
But that is exactly what Vlado wants to do right now, because now there is nothing in between himself and these 2 leaders, and the 2 leaders are going to be duking it out next to each other down this short chute straightaway. Tim Birdie, the yellow car on driver's right. Raul Guardia actually going to tuck back in line. I think he saw that Vlado Tito is sitting there on the racing line. They're going to try to close up that slipstream once again.
Very wide run there from Jones coming off of turn 4. Thankfully, all that counts for is an incident point at this stage. Hopefully, won't find himself with a DQ. We've got another replay, it sounds like. So something's happened to Raig. Oh, well, there's the dangers of doing those sort of draft bumps.
Yeah, bump drafts?
Yes, those things too.
Yeah, the nose on a Formula car is relatively pointy, and the attenuator, the gearbox, whatever you want to call the back end of whatever they got on these cars, it actually looks like a little bit of an overflow catch can back there. You got to get them lined up really square, or else, it can cause some issues.
It's still hovering about 1 second. Tito looking very fast as we ride on board with Hoglar, about 2 cars behind that white number 2, following Sanchez through, who takes the inside line. He's got more of the speed. Is this strategic? Does Vlado feel like they have more speed to catch them up?
Well, I just don't understand why Tito would leave the complete inside. He's not allowing 1 car, he's allowing 3 cars down to the inside. So Vlado Tito goes from 3rd all the way back down to what is 6th place here with 2 laps remaining.
Let's see, Hoglar's last lap is way off track there for Jones. He's able to keep it pointed forward. They're not super powerful cars, so they can ride the grass at least decently well, but he drops a lot of speed in the process. Birdie and Guardia once again swap positions. I was trying to see if Hoglar was quicker than those top 2, and he was not.
Well, and the thing, it was Vlado Tito that was in 3rd place that entire previous lap. So it really wouldn't have been Hoglar that would have been faster. It would have been that white number 2 car that is now fallen all the way down to, he's down in 5th place, almost completely unseen from the leaders.
And it looks like he's struggling to keep up with Sanchez now. He's dropped a little bit as the cars behind him know that time is running out.
I just looked. He has a damaged front left wing on the car right now, just like we saw out of Anthony Jones a little bit earlier, damage now on the number 2 car.
And I think he got that quite a bit earlier in the race. It surprises me it's taken this long for him to feel the effects of it, but it seems like it is slowing him down. You can see it there with this close-up shot that it is askew on the front, which means it's going to be difficult to make up the 1.5 seconds up to the leaders. Well, that's just from Hoglar, mind you. It's even farther for Tito now.
Yeah, no, and that's, like you said, the battle for what is third place, as our leaders up front are going to be getting the white flag. 1 lap to go. Raul Guardia wins the draft battle this time by. Does Tim Birdie have something up his sleeve for next lap?
Well, and that makes me curious as well, because Birdie's going to start this lap in second, but how would you position yourself, Joey? Put yourself in the cockpit.
I'd want to be in second place coming out of turn number 12. Oh, looks to be a little bit of an incident, a lot of an incident on the final lap here. So unfortunate for Ricardo Martinez. Oh, a couple cars involved in that one.
Yeah, Martinez with damage, and Plager, it looks like, as well, as a DNF unable to finish this race. We kind of knew it would erupt at some point, and a car just maybe got loose, it looks like, coming out of the second part of the Senna S.
It's certainly good. We got to remember the tires on these things. They're, call it street tires, so the more you overheat them, the more trouble you can be in at the end of the race, and I think we just saw our answer, Joe. Tim Birdie just simply went wide right there at the top of the hill. He wants to be in second place, but I think the mind game is going to come. Where do you want a slingshot? Do you want a slingshot to the outside to get the run to the start finish? Do you want the short run up the straightaway? That's what Raul Guardia is going to have to decide.
And it's not a guarantee. If he does not get a good exit, he's going to have to make up that time lost in the slipstream, but by that time they could be crossing that start-finish line. Let's see what happens. They're coming through the junction right now. It is a very good run from Birdie. In fact, he's already quicker, but he might be too close. Look at this. He's going to have to pop out very early on the straightaway. He's not going to get much of that slipstream power, and now he's on the long way around. He's got just a little bit more speed. Now he uses the side draft as he gets right alongside. Barely a nose ahead. This is going to be close. Coming up to the line. Who's it going to be as they cross the timing line? And it looks like it is Guardia by the tiniest of margins.
I'm seeing 3 1,000ths of a second, 4 1,000ths of a second is what it just corrected to. And you were spot on with the call. It was actually such a poor run out of Guardia coming through turn number 12 that Tim Birdie nailed it too well. He got up alongside too early, and then all of a sudden Guardia got the side draft and the slipstream for the race win.
Amazing stuff, and I'm sure Raul is going to be beside himself. Beat the number 1 seed here today by iRating with his number 8. No doubt going to be just beside himself with excitement after that thrilling finish. Hoglar did get himself a podium finish as well behind them as we take a look at the results of today's top split race here in the Skip Barber Sim Series. And Guardia, as I said, your winner. Look at that gap, 4,000ths of a second down to Birdie. That's literally inches, if not less. Hoglar was third, and Sanchez P4. Jones was fifth today. Tito with a P6 was followed by Crasta in seventh, and Burke eighth. Cabal ninth, and Roner did collect himself to 10th eventually.
And then DeYoung back here in 11th, Chris Wayne in 12th. Zupanqui in 13th, with unfortunately Ricardo Martinez having that last lap incident back here in 14th. Benji Reig in 15th. Jeff Randall had one of those deals up towards the front of the pack, finishes in 17th. Plager in 17th, 18th, and Javier Soto back here in 18th.
So a few cars at the very end who unfortunately just got a little too feisty, I think, in the battling to be able to bring it home to the checkered flag, but definitely gave us fun all the way to that checkers up at the front between that 1-2 battle. And Birdie, so close to coming away with the win. I believe we're giving it just a second before we close this in case we get any drivers to chat, because I definitely would love to hear from them. I'm pretty certain Guardia did not balk him on purpose, but
No.
it worked in his favor.
No, he definitely didn't try to play any games in turn number 12. Tim Birdie played it to perfection, but almost too perfect. That run up the line, you need to be able to time it perfectly, and ultimately when Raul just went a little bit wide on the entry, it allowed Birdie's run to catch him too soon, got past him too quickly up the straightaway, and that's what allowed Raul Guardia to kind of pull that side draft maneuver. And I mean, I was watching, call it from the chopper camera, the chase camera, if you will, and it was inches. I mean, just a barely a nose ahead, 4/1000ths of a second for the race win.
For sure. That is the one to go in the highlights. Is it looks like we might have to close it out, as we have not had anybody show up here today. So I think we're going to wrap today's race up, which certainly gave us plenty to chew on until we come back a week from now. So, of course, a week from now, that will be at Laguna Seca, and that's going to be October 30th, just before Spooky Day here for Halloween at 2:15 p.m. Eastern. Make sure and tune in for that one. That is a very different track than what we saw today, but still will provide some slipstream action. And then, of course, we see our schedule for the rest of the weekend. Big one is going to be Grand Prix Legends, the Lotus 49s, going to an oval at Milwaukee. They do this once a season, and I guarantee it is always a thrill. Be sure to check out all of our other broadcasts we have listed here. But until next time, well, before we go to that, we'll just give a couple thoughts here about this one. Like we said, Joey, I mean, it was so tight, but man, I don't think either driver really expected it to quite go that way.
No, and there were some definitely big movers. You know, I'm looking at my timing and scoring here. I mean, talk about the number 10 car, Pablo, plus 11 positions to finish on the podium here today. We came into this one kind of expecting a little bit of an interesting race, little formula cars on a really big racetrack, but it was actually a phenomenal show.
A good point on Hoglar. We need to make sure and give him credit for what was an amazing climb up through the order. Again, thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and thank you to our team, Joey, Christian, and Dougie. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.